to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Also known as Wednesday 13.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to the video. Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
You're listening to Brutal Planet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? CJ Pierce here from Drowning Pool, and you listen to Brutal Planet Media right here. Get yourself.
Hey, I'm Steve from Within the Ruins, and this is Brutal Planet.
Greetings, Brutal Planet. We are live today with Mr. Jay Ferron from the band Skull Riot. How you doing, man?
Hey, Dustin. Good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, man. I checked out.
Thank you
your
for having
stuff.
us, man. Thank you
Absolutely, absolutely, man.
for the opportunity to.
I love being able to kind of elevate newer bands that are doing something unique. And you guys kind of have a little bit of that. We talked about this a little before we came on, kind of like Death from Above, 1979,
Yeah.
Royal Blood, the two-piece.
The two-piece band, man, it's a power duo, as I like to call it, because it's a lot of power. It needs to have a lot of power for that band to actually make noise, with only two guys in it. And I think the original ones, the OGs, is the White Stripes. How they
Oh,
came
yeah.
out. They came out, and everybody were like, "What? Like two guys can do that?" And
Stripped down.
it's insane, right? Like it's just so raw because you don't have a lot of choices to you don't have a lot of things that you can put on the music to cover your mistakes or to cover little stuff here and there. Like it's raw. This is what I do, this is what I can do in my instrument, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To a certain
You
extent,
can't hide.
also because you can hide, but to a certain extent it's also very limiting because you
Yeah.
want to do more stuff, but you can't. You have to, keep the rhythm going. You have to keep that bass line. You have to do some other stuff. Then you have to decide. It's a very interesting combination, but I fell in love with it. I heard of Royal Blood back in 2015, 2016, and I listened to their first album, and I was literally I remember I was sitting in my car listening to that first album, and the whole album I just listened to it in my car. Like I think I was going to school, and um I just said, fuck it, I'm listening to this instead of going to school that day. And it was so like revealing to me, like, oh my god, you can do that with bass
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a
and
big
it can
guitar,
sound
really.
that big. Yeah, but it sounds huge. It sounds like they're like four guys playing, you know?
Their drummer's killer too. I
Yeah.
think that helps a
He's
lot.
he's massive. But the thing, you need to be good. Like you need to be solid when you're a two-piece band. Like both of you. Your drummer needs to be hitting hard, needs to be on time, can't fuck up. I'm sorry, I know we
So
can swear, but
no. Here's a deep cut for you. Do you know the band Norma Jean?
Norma Jean, yeah. I heard them before, I've listened to them before. I'm not
Their
like
original,
very big.
the original singer of that band, his name's Josh Scoggin, and he has a new band called 68. And it's
Okay.
similar too. It's him and a drummer, just him playing guitar and singing
Just
and a
that.
drummer.
Well, I don't
And
know
it's
if it's a Royal Effect blood, but I mean the Royal Blood Effect, but
yeah,
it I've been seeing a lot of two-piece bands growing lately, like a
yeah.
lot.
It's it's a tightrope walk because, like you said, you can't, like, if you're in a two-piece band, you can't hide behind the guitar or you can't hide behind the keyboard.
Mhm.
Like, you got to be on point. But also, it's probably a lot easier. Like, there's only two guys, only two personalities you have to deal with. You know,
Yeah, that's what I love about it, man. It's basically just one personality I have to deal with now,
yeah,
just the other guy, and that's it. Like my personality he'll figure it out with me. But yeah, I've been in bands all my life, and I find out that's one of the hardest things of being in a band,
yeah,
because I've always compared it to like a marriage, like when you're in a band, you're in a marriage. The only the hardest thing is that you're in a marriage with four other people, like, or with three other people, which is If with one, it's like, oh my god, like sometimes you're like, shush, but with three more guys, it's crazy, man. It's just insane.
You look at
But
bands like
yeah,
Metallica too, and it's like those guys, like their band has outlasted like multiple marriages in some cases. You know what I mean? Like multiple actual marriages. It's like they're still together, but like they've been through multiple wives
yeah, they've been through some divorce. They're not the original lineup. Well, of course, obviously, rest in peace, Cliff.
outside of
But
Cliff.
um, outside of Cliff, like they had to go through a divorce in the middle, you know, in order to continue. And I respect that too. But
Well, it's just
that tells you like what the life is about and
yeah,
how
but it
hard it
also
is.
says something about the marriage of a band. It's almost like the band, that relationship has outlasted like even like personal relationships, because it's been so strong. And it's rare you see that. Like you were saying, so many bands go through multiple lineup changes. Metallica is one of the rare bands that the only person they've lost really is Jason, of course, too, but
Jason.
the original bass
Yeah.
player.
Yeah, bass players, they've had a few. But yeah, I think when you're committed to at that level to your band, that's your marriage. Like that's your love. Like that's your first love, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things I think musicians struggle with when you're so in love with what you do and with your passion and with your music, that finding someone that understands that this is priority in your life for you, um it's tough. It's tough,
Yeah.
it's not easy. So that's why also a lot of musicians don't last in relationships and but keep going in the music.
Yeah.
It's a tough, delicate, I don't know, I don't even know how to put it,
It's a
but
tightrope walk.
it is. But yeah, coming back to Royal Blood, man, like huge influence for sure in our sound right now. And what I like to say is we're a mix of like Motorhead meets Royal Blood. You know, I took the Royal Blood approach, and I gotta say I studied that guy hard. Like I was searching for videos to see what his sound was, and because he was very secretive about it. And once I figured it out, then I was like, okay, now I want to do something that's different from them, and I want to do it raw, and I want to do it fast, and I wanted to do it heavier than they are doing it. Um, and that's how we came up with. I came up with Skull Riot sound. That right now it's only one song out. Our first single is out. It's called Blood and Crows. Um, but we have more music coming up.
I watched the video.
This
The video is good too.
Oh, you did? Thank you, man. That video was directed by our close friend Alex. Um, he helped me out so much in that video. He directed it, came up with the idea, produced it, like even edited the whole thing. Um, so I'm very thankful to him. And yeah, it was fun to record that day, to shoot that video. It's literally really, really fun to hang with all of those guys.
There's kind of like some interesting symbolisms in it. Like there's some guys like smoking and playing cards at the table and stuff. Is there any
Yeah,
like deeper meaning behind that?
of if you smoke, you'll die. No, I don't think so. But it's more like the symbolisms are around how the devil wins, and the devil wins with that 666 hand. Um, then we'll have the which is the original like Black Plague Doctor. You know how they had this kind of like crow looking masks,
Mm-hmm.
but since it's blood and crows in the song, we were like, oh, let's put a crow in there, kind of thing. So we found that guy, we put it in there. Um, and actually, we were missing like two guys. We had two more characters, but those guys never showed up that day for the shooting. So we had to do with what
Just got to work
we
with what
had.
you got.
Yeah, basically, low budget indie band, trying to put it out as professional as possible. So we're trying to like work with what we have. But the skull in there, the skeleton guy, he's one of our close friends too. His name is Cole Dayhill. He's a very talented musician as well. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I can do this. I'll put the mask on and everything." And he smokes in real life, right? So we're like, "Dude, it would be cool if you could smoke in the video too through the mask." He was like, "Okay, let me try it." But like his jumper with a skeleton thing, but that also had like a mask, and on top of that, he had the plastic mask. So he had to inhale like twice as much in order for it to go in and then to blow it out. At the end of the video, he was like with this nicotine high, and he was like, "Dude, I don't think I feel very good." I'm like, "Dude, thank you so much for your work. You're gonna look really cool."
It's all for art.
It's all for the art, bro.
So tell me kind of your origin story. How did this band come about? Did you start out in other bands? Like what got you into the bass? What made you pick up an instrument? All that stuff. Go back as far as you want.
Oof. How long do we have in this interview? Because it's
As long as
quite
you
a
want.
long journey, bro. It's a long journey. I started in music when I was around probably 12, really. Like that's when I really went into music. But before that, I remember I was like probably 8, and I begged my parents for a drum set for Christmas, and I was lucky enough that that Christmas I got that drum set. It's like a red drum set for kids, and I was insane. I was like, "Dude, I got it. Fuck yeah!" But I didn't know what to do. Like I was just banging at those. Um, but then I kind of stopped because I was like, I don't know how to keep time. I don't know anything. So, and I never took classes. They never put me into classes. They just bought me the drum set, and that's it, right? Um, but then at 12, one of my cousins, he lived in McAllen, Texas, and I'm from Mexico City. So when he came to visit me that summer, he was like, "Dude, you need to listen to this," and he put me on all this punk music, like The Offspring and Rancid and Green Day, and I was like, "Whoa, what's this?" Like, and I got hooked. MXPX and NoFX and all of that punk stuff. I was really hooked back then. Before that, a friend of my dad, he was really big into music, but he was more like a progressive guy, like a prog rock guy. So he once listened. He was walking to the house, and I was listening to the Beatles because my dad is a huge fan of the Beatles. Um, and he saw me there, like really sitting down and listening to the music. So he was like, "Hey, you really like music, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like 10, and he was like, "You know what? I'm gonna bring you some CDs that you're gonna like." And next time he came in, he brought me like Pink Floyd and Genesis and Jazz, and I was like, "Dude, this is like nothing compared to the Beatles, right? It's like a huge other world." Um, and that opened my mind, but also I was very young, I think, to understand the music that much, like all the complexity that it's behind all that kind of music. So I really didn't get that hooked up as I did with punk, because punk for me was like super simple. It was like straightforward, again, raw music that was like, "Oh, maybe I can play that. Maybe I can do that," you know?
It's crazy.
Um,
I feel like hip hop today is kind of like has that kind of vibe, like that. There's the youth energy, and it's easy to make it. Like people can do it with
'Cause
like a drum pad and a
yeah,
couple samples.
you have a computer, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a similar kind of vibe. Obviously, there's no guitar
Interesting.
usually, but it's the same energy. I feel like that punk energy. It's like, this is easy to do, get people started, you know?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but I
Because I
guess
come
you're
from
right.
I honestly come from a similar background, man. Like, I started, the first band I started playing was Nirvana. It's easy, and Green Day, right?
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
graduated to like Metallica, Pantera, and all that
right.
stuff.
Then you start growing. Yeah, it's just so emotionally connected to, you know, like it's so raw, and what they're saying, and they're saying it how it is, you know, like it
Mhm.
is. There's no like beautiful color of lyrics in it.
Yeah,
It's just like fuck the government, fuck your parents, fuck the other guy. Like,
we need more
and
of
you're
that.
like, and when you're 12, 13, you're like, hell yeah, fuck the government. Hell yeah, fuck sometimes my parents. And hell yeah, fuck you too for crossing the street, you know? Like, so that resonated with me a lot. And at that time, I was I had a friend that he played bass, and he was trying to sell his bass because he wanted to buy another one. So he was like very convenient to me. Hey, you want to buy my bass? I know you like music, blah blah blah. I'll teach you. And I was like, let me see how much you want. And it was too much, but he lent it to me like for like a week, and I kind of fell in love with it that week. I was like, damn, this is pretty cool. Like, and I think I can do this like easier than drums, you know. Um, so I went back to my parents. I was like, for this, for my birthday, only want a bass. That's all I want. Like, don't spend anything else. Buy me a cheap bass. And again, I'm so thankful to my parents. They did. I went there, got me like a cheap Yamaha bass that I still have actually. Um, and I started with that. And around 16, I was not in bands or anything. I was just playing by myself, trying to figure it out by myself, listening to all this kind of music. And by 16, I met this guy in my school, and he was into punk rock as well, and metal and like heavy music. And I was like, dude, you want to start a band? He plays guitar, and I heard that he was already in another band. So I was like, maybe you can tell your drummer, you know, and we can just be a like a three-piece kind of thing and start. And let's do, because he was playing like alternative music with the other band, but we were very into punk rock at 16 with the new stuff that was coming out, you know, like all this screamo and like emo
Mm,
thing and stuff like
I
that.
love a lot of that
Uh,
stuff. Under
yeah,
Oath, and
On the
My Chemical
Road.
Romance.
Yeah, the first two albums of My Chemical Romance. Maybe the third one is good too. But like for me was like the Used when they came out. I was like, damn, I want to play that kind of music, you know, like that
I always have
raw.
to I always have to brag about this because they're from my hometown. I'm originally
Really?
from Orem, Utah. Yeah. And Bert,
Wow.
so I played in a band in high school called Drop Seven, and the Used at the time were called
That's cool.
Strange Itch, and they were like a ska band.
Yeah.
And then they got Bert was in a band called Cobra Kai that was almost, it kind of sounded like Deftones, and then somehow those guys connected. I had already
Interesting.
moved to LA at that point, but when I heard them, the first time I heard them, they were called Something to Burn, I think. And yeah, anyway, that's
Interesting.
my little aside. That's my little.
That's cool. I
Bert's
mean,
mom was like
yeah.
a substitute teacher in our town too, like Mrs. McCracken. I had her a couple times.
Wow. Wow, dude, like that's the guy that I was like, he's so insane. Like
They're awesome.
I love it.
They're a
I
great
love it.
band.
They're a huge band, man. Like I love them. I fell in love with them so much. Like they were my favorite band throughout 16, 17, 18, 19 when I was growing up. Um, but also the quality of their production. I was amazed by Feldman coming
John
in
Feldman, yeah,
and
Goldfinger,
he's doing his thing as a
yeah.
producer. His first time doing a producer job with the
He's the
Used.
reason they're famous. He
They
found
are the
them.
reason, bro. Like he's the guy that's behind a lot of those artists.
Yep.
Um, and the way he helped them be who they are, right? Because I'm pretty sure the songs were not what ended up being
No.
before Feldman came in. So I I was older enough to appreciate that as well, which all of this started to, get into my back of my mind as like, okay, that's how a professional good band should sound like and should be arranged. And the sound of the bass, the sound of the guitar, sound of the vocals, like, oh, you can do this too, or you can do that too. That's awesome. So they open a lot of possibilities, not only in the emotional way, but also in the physical way,
Hmm.
auditory way, right? After that, that band was going nowhere pretty fast because we changed names like 3 times. We were getting some traction with the second name. We
Was
opened
this
like
all
a
in
couple of
Mexico City?
festivals. This was all in Mexico City. I didn't move here till I was till 2015 when I did my master's, pursue my. All of this is back in Mexico City. And long story short, we took like a year to record our album because we wanted to do it ourselves. But by the end of the year and a half, I was done. I was like, dude, this is taking so long. We're fighting so much. I need to play with somebody else, you know? And I met another guy who was some very interesting alternative rock music and bass player. So I started jamming with him. We we ended up making a band with the two of us, which was really cool. I really thought that music was going somewhere. And then he pulled up one of the Divas move. And when we were about to go into the studio to record all the songs, because they were originally his songs, but when the drummer came in and I came in, we kind of changed the whole thing. And we kept the same song, but it was now like what I thought better
Hmm.
and more arranged and more interesting stuff happening. And we were
Sure.
about to go into the studio like a week before going to the studio. He was like, "Hey guys, by the way, I just want to record like the demo that I had, exactly how the songs were, but in the studio." And we were like, "So what with all the arrangements and everything we did and everything we've been working for the last year?" No, I don't think we're gonna use it. I was like, "Well, I don't think I'm gonna be in this band anymore. Thank you." Um, and yeah,
That's tough.
ended up badly as well. Uh, and then I jumped into another band, which was more like rock and straightforward rock. We were cool. We were getting some traction. And then the vocalist put up a diva move and he was like, "Oh, I need to diva move." Like he said he needed to play gigs that were paying him because he had to, maintain and um, pay for his family and his daughter and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, then get a job, get paid, pay your bills, pay your family, and play with us on the weekends. Like we are going somewhere. There's people looking at us. Like the album is out. Like we're opening for other bands that are big. Like, oh no, I just want to do music, so I'm gonna go and play these gigs, karaoke gigs that pays me every night. I'm like, you're insane, man. Like, you're gonna drop all of this for that? And he did. He said, no, fuck you guys. And he left us. And the worst part is that he was a very unique vocalist. So the sound that he had to the band was very unique. And that's why
Mm.
people was like liking us. We were a very solid band, but with a very unique vocalist.
That's
And when
important.
he got out of the equation, then the band was like, well, we're solid, but now we don't have the other quality that was standing out. So that crumbled. I did like a Rage Against the Machine tribute band for a while. And after that I was done. I was like, I remember I came to my girl and I was like, I don't think I can do this music thing anymore. Like I'm done. Nothing's working. nothing that I do works. Like everything starts like rising and everything ends up crashing at the end for some reason. I think I'm done. I'm gonna do this just as a hobby by myself. And I ended up putting like my own business back in Mexico for a while and doing my own thing on the weekends and like at home and stuff like that. But that's when I started to really experiment with bass by itself because I had no one else to play, right? Just the computer and me. So
Mhm.
started to record myself, coming up with like this just bass solo songs, and it forced me to think of what can I do only with bass. From there, I think people saw me. I was really kind of depressed, and they were like, "I think you need to continue with this. Like, think about it. Like, I don't think you should just waste it like that." And I said, "Okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna move out of here because there's nothing going on here for me. And if I'm gonna do this, I'll better myself. So I'll go study a master's or something." And that's when I moved to LA. I moved to LA in 2015 to pursue a master's in film scoring because they were very low running on bass players anyway. So they were like, if you enroll with us, you'll be playing bass a lot. And you still have your one-on-one classes with whoever bass teacher you want. And I chose a school that was here in LA, not only because of the weather, but because that school was a brand new school and they were small. So I was like, my thought behind it was if it's very small, it's very one on one. So I can take advantage as I can from all the teachers. And they were all good, man. They were all huge professional names. Like my bass teacher was Abraham Laboriel. I don't know if you know him.
I can't say I do.
Abe is a legend, bro. He's played in more than 5,000 records in his life. He's a Grammy winning bass player. He played even for Michael Jackson. He played like everywhere, anything, and he's huge.
How
And
do you
he
spell his
has a
last name?
Laboriel, Labor.
Came right up in Google.
Yeah, he's huge, man.
Mexican American bassist. Has
Yeah,
played on over 4,000 recordings. Oh wow. George Benson. George Benson's like one of my earliest jazz
dude,
influences as a guitar player. Al Jarreau, wow.
he's
Henry Mancini.
dude. I'm telling you, he is huge.
Wow.
He
Herb
is huge,
Albert, Dolly Parton.
and
Yeah,
he's
quite a
done
resume on
he's
that
done
guy.
one of like he's done big records, like history changing records.
Mm-hmm.
He's being part of that. So he was my guy. Like he was sitting right in front of me,
That's
saying
your
me like,
teacher. That's awesome.
"Oh, you should play something like this," and "Oh, your timing is try it like this." And I was like so appalled by all of it, right? And but like that was my bass player. Like thing for arrangements and arranging and orchestration. Like I had a guy called Norman. Um, oh damn, I'm blanking on his last name. But he's the arranger for Michael Giacchino, who is a huge composer for Disney, and he's done the Star Wars movies and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, and he's a double bass player as well. So when I tried to take double bass, he was my teacher as well. Um, and just like that, like the fusion jazz ensemble was taught by an amazing piano guy. Um, man, I'm blanking on all their names, but they were huge, man. They're all huge.
Yeah, I mean, just the
Those
guy you did mention is massive. Like he has a long list. Some of those session players are like some of the best like unknown players in the industry too.
Yeah, of course they have to, in order to be in all of those records. Well, long story short, that was the school I went to here, and while I was doing that, I came up with my first um, two-piece band project. It was more alternative oriented, more popish oriented, because at the time my thought behind it was like, oh, let me try something that's very commercial and see if that sticks for now, right? Um, so it was like also bass, but with a guitar player. So it was just us, and we were playing with some backing tracks. But live, we used to have a drummer, so it was like a three-piece at that point. But the whole idea was just two guys, and it was more pop, funk, electronic vibe going on. So when I moved here, I met with who is now my boss. His name is Mauricio Garza. He's an 11-time Grammy nominee, producer, and recording engineer. And my boss in Mexico, he was like, "Hey, now that you're moving to LA, remember Mauricio? He moved to LA like a couple of years ago. You should connect with him. I'll pass you his number. Just call him. He has a studio over there. Maybe you can do something." I was like, "Cool, thank you." So when I came here, he used to have this studio in Burbank, and I lived in Burbank. So I was like, "Hey, you mind if I drop by? I want to see the studio because I want to record some stuff." And he was like, "Hey, yeah, come through." And I met him, and he was like, "Hey, that's cool. Let me see what you want to record." And I play him this concept album that I had, right, the two-piece pop electronic thing, and he loved it. And he was like, "Dude, we should record it here. I want to record this. Let's do it." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And we did that for like 3 months, and that's when we really got like a lot closer. You know, when you see someone every day for like 12 hours a day, like you better get close to that guy or you better hate him, because there's no other way out. And long story short, finished that project. We started to play with it and put it out and release it, and play some gigs here in LA. But again, even with a two-piece band, the other guy was not as committed as I was, and I was funding all of this, and he was doing nothing. So I was like, maybe this is not working, and I let it go. Finished my master's, and when I finished my master's, I did like a Pro Tools certification as an engineer, as an audio engineer, and I got certified. And Mauricio knew that, so he was like, "Hey, I need an extra hand in the studio. You want to come work for me?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? You're gonna pay me?" "Yeah, I'll pay you a little bit." I was like, "Okay, cool, let's do it." And that was my first gig, and that's why I'm still here, because uh, I have a job with him. I'm a full-time audio engineer,
Awesome.
recording, mixing, mastering. So that's my story, man. That takes me to today. But during COVID, this is where Skull Riot came out, because during COVID there were some days that we were down and the studios were down, and I had nothing else to do but to pick up my bass and play and practice. And I fell in love again with Royal Blood like 3 years after. So I was like, I should probably try something like this and see what happens, because I wanted to do something, but I didn't know if I wanted to go through the jazzy vibe band, like snarky poppy kind of thing, or if I wanted to do something more prog rock, like Mars Volta oriented,
Mm-hmm.
or if I wanted to do something raw, like Motorhead oriented. So I noticed that every time every time I tried to compose or come up with something, it was more Motorhead oriented. So I was like, let's do this then. This is it. This is what I need to do. Um, and that's when I came up with all these songs, and it was just me and my laptop recording myself, coming up with all these songs. Then I met a guy from Brazil. His name is Pedro Ramos, aka Toledo, and he used to play in a big band in, not a big, like a quite famous band in Brazil, but he moved to LA, and he played guitar and he played drums as well. And I played him like all my demos, and he was like, "Dude, this is cool. Let's do this. Let's do a band. Let's do this." I was like, "Okay, cool." And he was the first guy I played my stuff live with. I mean, at least in the rehearsal studio, to see really how it sounded. But I was still perfecting like the sound and how I was gonna switch from speaker, like from guitar one to guitar two to bass to all of this and everything together. And um, but he helped me record 3 songs that are the songs that are coming out. So he recorded on drums. He recorded Blood and Crows, that is out right now. Our second single that's coming this Friday, April 26th. It's called Same Old. He recorded that as well. And our third single that's coming out in May, at the end of May, called Chasing Lights. He recorded that as well.
How did you come up with the name Skull Riot? Is there like an interesting story behind that? It's a cool name, by the way.
Thank you. It not really. There's not really I've I don't know if people do this, but time I come up with a name that I think is like a cool name for a band, I put it in my phone. I have a list of names for bands,
Awesome.
and one day I was like, I heard something like skull, like a skull smash skull something. I was like, oh, skull, that maybe a band named Skull something, it would be cool. And I just put skull something in my phone. And I started thinking, what could sound good with skull. And for a long time it was Skull Rebels. Because I wanted to have like something that the name was like punkish and rebellious and like against something that invokes that, right? Which I think that the sound gives that vibe. And for the longest time was Skull Rebel. With the other drummer that I had, we were Skull Rebel. But we never played anything live and we never put anything out. But it was like not sounding right. And then with another drummer that I had, I was sitting down and after rehearsal eating, and I was like, "What do you think of Skull Rebel's name?" And he was like, "Oh, it's cool, but maybe the rebel part I'm not too sold on because it sounds a little too forced, like, putting like, oh, I'm a rebel, And I was like, yeah, I agree. What about it's called Riot? Like, what if like we fuck people's heads? We fuck with people's heads,
It's a cool name in the sense that when I think of Skull Riot, I think of like a riot in my head. Too,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Like, it's not only a raw thing, but like in your head, you're gonna be like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, and at least I'm gonna try to like do that.
It's got a deep It's got like a double meaning almost, kind of like a deep meaning.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm really glad that you like the name.
Yeah, it's cool.
And the logo was made by one of my like childhood friends. Man, I went to school with this dude. His name is well, we know him as Bad Rat, Mala Rata. His name is Julian. He's an amazing design artist. And I was like, dude, I've seen the things that you've been doing lately. Instagram is really, really dope. Would you take a swift at this? Like, I want my logo to be something like this. And I gave him just some references. He was like, "Oh yeah, I love the name, man. Let's try it." And he came up with this logo. I was like, "Dude, it's the killest logo I've ever seen. It's really, really cool. I'm in love with that." I myself, like, I got it.
Oh
right
wow.
there. Yeah. Before
So
I
you're
even had a
serious.
band. before I even had a
Oh, that's
band,
great.
before I even had a drummer, I was like, this is it. I've never been so sure of a project as this in
That's
my life.
awesome.
So I
Well, it
was
sounds
like,
like it's panning out because you guys are opening for Non-Point. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. Friday as well, April 26th at the Garden Amp.
Awesome. That's a
Yeah.
great venue. I
It-
saw the Metal Fest there. I missed that Infectious Groove show. There's two of them, and I missed them
oh,
both. I want to go to
yeah.
that so bad. I'm trying to actually catch Seosin playing there
Ooh,
with
Sayosine
both
would be good.
singers, with both singers too, with Anthony and the new guy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I never saw them live before,
me
even
either.
though they're one of the bands that I was listening to with the Used and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, totally from that era, like Glassjaw, The
definitely.
Used,
Yeah, they were on the
Under
heavier
Oath.
side of that music,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
liked.
It's totally
Yeah.
I totally blame that era on the Deftones too. It's kind of like
Oh,
Chino came out and started doing like I mean there were other people who did like the scream sing thing a little bit before, but I think the Deftones like really made it a thing. And then
hmm
after that first Deftones record and second one, that's when
yeah.
like The Used and Glassjaw and all these like screamo type bands kind of broke out, right?
Well, yeah. Now that you mention it, they do have a lot of connection in music wise. They always still categorize Deftones as shoegaze, right? But
They
I'm
have
like,
it. They have some of it. We were
yeah,
me
they
and my
have some of that, but
we were going through like the Deftones just have such a good output too. Like I was listening to that song "Hole in the Earth" the other day. I don't know if you've
uh,
heard that one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like I was just looking back at the Deftones catalog, and I'm like, wow, they have like a lot of good stuff. Like they're one of the bands from that era, the new metal era, that just like consistently put out good stuff. Like the Diamond Eyes record, one of their more recent ones, fantastic. Yeah,
Diamond Eyes, amazing
yeah,
record, bro. And live, they're huge. They're really, really good band. Like
yeah.
I saw them at Las Vegas Fest, the Sick New World or something like that.
Hmm.
And they were like massive. Like people were going crazy for them, and they were sounding really good. Like they were delivering the whole thing. I've never seen them live before, and I was really, really looking forward to it. But I'm always scared because I'm like, dang, what if they suck live? You know, like what if and now I'm gonna be disappointed with the band, or what if Chino doesn't sing that well live? Because I heard like he was not singing well, and now that he was older, but that day he killed it. They all killed it. I was like, damn, it's
When
such
I
a good
saw them
band.
the last time I saw them, I was lucky to see them because they were huge in Utah and they did
Yeah.
the Around the Fur like release party in Salt Lake. So I saw some killer shows when they were younger, but I saw them recently
Wow.
with Gojira and it was
Oh,
yeah, that was tough because Deftones were great, but like
wow.
Gojira was the opener, so it was
How
kind of
can
like
you?
yeah, it was like Gojira
How
killed it,
killed
and
it?
then Deftones were good, but it was like they're kind of like it's just a little bit slower, like a lot not, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. It's not. I mean, it's not the same vibe. I see how you
right.
can put them together, though. But I saw Gojira with Mastodon
Oh yeah,
at
I saw
the
that show too.
Kia Forum. Um,
I was there.
and
I was at
oh,
that. Yeah, I saw that too.
damn,
Gojira and Mastodon.
how you like Mastodon?
I love Mastodon. Their drummer is one of the best because he used to be a guitar player. So he has like a fluidity that some drummers don't have, like that
Yeah.
rhythm. Like it's I'm they're not my favorite band, but what was cool about that show for me is we were sitting like two rows up. We were like up in the rafters, like the nosebleeds,
Okay.
but like two rows in front of us was Scott Ian and his family from Anthrax.
Oh wow.
And then the drummer from Converge, Ben Kohler, I think is a former drummer of Converge. I think he's in a band called Mutoid Man now. But yeah, like I was like, holy shit, there's Scotty and
It's right here.
with
That's
his wife
crazy.
and kid too.
Oh wow. Yeah, they're such a metal family, right? Um, then Mastodon is one of my favorite bands of all time. So
Really?
I was really looking forward to that show because I've never seen them live before, and I was really disappointed, man.
Really?
They sounded really bad. Like, I mean, not performance wise, they were killer. They were they delivered performance wise. They did, but sound wise, I didn't like it at all. And I thought, I was like, oh, venue, like it's probably, like all this rebounds and echo and reverb and whatnot. I'm not gonna blame it on them. But then Gojira came out and they sounded amazing. I don't know if you remember that, but they sounded amazing.
Yeah.
And their show was huge and great and lights and all this. I was like, so it's not the venue. It's either their audio engineer
Yeah.
or something, because Gojira sounding really good. And I was not a big fan of Gojira then, but that show put me on to them like big. I was like so amazed by that show. And that just shows you how powerful a show can be, like as a
Yeah.
band, right? If you killed your show, people will definitely become a fan, because that happened to me more than once. But with Gojira happened immediately.
I think it's tough to mix energies sometimes too. Like Mastodon could have been like their engineer could have sucked, or like because they're like the opener, it's like not. It was kind of like a
Yeah.
double headline tour. But I've seen that dynamic so many times. Like this guy was telling me the other day about Megadeth and Lamb of God, and he's like, Megadeth is my favorite band, and they had Lamb of God open for him, and it was just like that was a bad decision because Lamb of God killed it, and Megadeth just seemed
Mm.
tired after Lamb of God. You know.
Yes. Well, that's the risk that like some of the headliners go through when they bring it such an amazing opener.
Yeah. By the same token, kudos to them for doing that because a lot of Megadeth fans might have never heard Lamb of God before.
Lamb of God
Now
before.
Lamb of God's arguably bigger than Megadeth. So
Right. Yeah. I've seen all the behind the scenes documentaries on Lamb of God albums too.
they're
I've learned
great.
a lot from those too. And Mastodons too. They have great documentaries on how they recorded their albums.
I got like 10 more minutes before I got to
Hell
close
yeah.
down, man. So you guys are playing with Nonpoint and you got a new single coming out on the 26th. Is there anything else we should talk about or anything that I didn't touch on?
Yeah, we have another show on May 25th at Universal Bar and Grill
Oh,
here
okay.
in LA. So for more local people, they can go there. It's a smaller venue, but it's gonna be dope too. So maybe you can come to that one, bro.
I
I'll see
might
you there.
actually do it. Random aside, man. When I first moved to LA I moved here in 2000, so I've been here almost 25 years now, but
Oh,
I
wow.
met my first girlfriend actually at the Universal Bar and Grill. She was
Oh,
from
wow.
Austria, and I ended up flying to Europe to hang out with her and stuff. Like I went to Europe because of
Because
a
of the
girl I
girl.
met at the Universal Bar and Grill. So
Classic.
I haven't been there
Classic.
in years. We used to always her and her friend loved karaoke night, and we were
Okay.
always there on karaoke night. But I haven't been there in probably like 15 years, 20 years.
Man, stop by. I'll buy you a beer.
Absolutely, man. I'll definitely
Hell
come
yeah.
down.
Thank you so much for your time, Dustin. And thank you so much for what you're doing with the channel, putting up bands like us and giving us the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I think the scene appreciates it and we need it, we need more people like
Absolutely.
you.
I
Thank
I
you.
love it, man. Like I grew up having like Headbangers Ball, and
Yeah.
they don't have that anymore. So it's like, how do
MTV
you?
too.
Yeah, right. And it's like it's crazy because I discovered Royal Blood in the most random place. They used to have these cable channels with just music on them, like on like Comcast or like
Okay.
there were like channels you could go to. Like one was like country, one was rock, one
Oh
was like
yeah.
metal. And I would listen to this rock channel and a Royal Blood song came on. I was like, who is this? And
Wow.
that's how I got into them. It was that song Come On Over, like that. It was like the very first record. Something
Yeah.
like anyway, but that band has evolved quite a bit. Like they're almost doing like dance shit now.
Yeah, that's why I
It's not as
said
good.
like Royal Blood, like the first two albums was like the eye openers for me. After that, they kind of like went too commercial for my taste, or too poppy for my taste. But yeah, that's how I discovered The Used on MTV. I was laid up at night just going through stuff. I was about to fall asleep, and I was in Costa Rica, alone in my hotel room, and then I put MTV on, and then out of nowhere, the Used came out with Taste of Ink. I was like, what is this? This sounds so good. And after that came out Story of the Year with a video as well. I was like,
Another John
what?
Feldman.
What is this?
Yeah.
And those two were my favorite bands ever. And I was like, in one night, one video after the other, I was like, I discovered two bands that were like, holy shit for me. And I'm so sad for this generation that they're not having that that opportunity
Yeah,
of going through MTV.
it's just the dynamic has changed. There's still a lot of
Yeah.
good. There's still a lot of good stuff. It's just the way that you find it is different, you know?
Now you have to search it, you know. Now you have to go deep into it, because for the longest time, I know you have to leave, but for the longest time, I was like, man, there's no good music out there. And now I just tapped into one band that was the right one, and that opened a gate for me to like, oh, look at all of these other bands that are out there that are amazing, that I didn't know they existed. And now I'm like super like overflown by such good music.
Yeah.
There's new bands for me.
It's like a fire hose. One more thing I gotta mention before we go too is I feel like of those bands like Royal Blood and Death from Above, 1979,
Yeah.
they have actually gotten better. Like their last album, I don't know if it's the one before the last, Outrage Is Now. Have you heard that album?
From 1975?
Death from Above,
Yeah, from
1979.
Death from Above. 79, my bad. No, I haven't heard the last one.
There's an album there's a song on there called Caught Up, and it's like
Okay.
they're two piece, you know, the drummer
Yeah,
sings,
yeah, yeah.
but like
Saw them
that
live
song,
too here.
yeah, you have to like that's like one of the best rock songs I think of like the last 15 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Caught Up by Death from Above. It's two piece.
I'll listen to that album right now.
It's
Yeah,
Outrage Is Now. It's such a good album. It's like it's a sleeper. Like I got to see them live a couple months ago. Well, a couple years ago actually at I think it was it was a theater. I don't even remember the exact.
Yeah,
venue,
I think I was
they were
there.
awesome.
I think I was.
He was
there
the
too.
drummer was in like all white.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like a very high stage, right?
Yep.
Like a very high stage, like
What
beautiful.
theater was that? Was
theater.
it Belasco?
I don't remember
No,
the name.
I was
but
I was up
there.
in the balconies again. So.
I was down there in the pit because I was like, I need to see exactly what he's working with right there. Yeah, I saw Royal Blood too here when they came because
I haven't
needed
seen
to.
them live yet.
They're really good. They killed it too, man. I got a hands down to them.
Well, you're continuing in that tradition, so
well,
kudos for that.
hopefully we can make a name also that is worthy of mention for other people. You know, that's what I am aiming for.
Yeah, man, I'll definitely come down and check you guys out. You guys that show is close by me, so I'll definitely come check it out.
Hell yeah, man! Come by. I'll buy you a beer. We'll keep on chatting.
It's the 25th. So what, Friday?
I think so. May 25th. I'll tell you exactly right now. May 25th is a Saturday, actually.
Oh, Saturday. Okay, a little bit
Yeah.
behind on the calendar. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming through and come through and talk to me again. You know, when you have some new news or a new release or anything, man.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe we can do this when the EP comes out. It's gonna be
Absolutely.
like around mid-June.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. Again, great meeting you. Great chatting with you. I hope to see you around.
You as well, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Peace.
Peace out,
Have a good
everybody.
one.
Keep it brutal. Till next time.